That's working. So, yeah.
All right. All right. Wow, it's a very packed, very packed morning today. So very good to see all of you. And it's a privilege again to stand before you to present the lesson today. And it's continue from my series of the 12 points that show Christianity is true. Handbook on defending the Christian faith. I think it's something important, especially for not all of us, and especially for younger generation to learn how to defend their faith in this postmodern world. So yeah, just to recap a little bit, yeah, the first point was truth about reality is knowable, and then the opposite cannot be both true. We covered that, and I'll just go through some of the slides. We covered, why we believe in God, and one of that is the teleological arguments of the existing of God. We had a look at different videos, and all complex design has a designer. We're thinking of a watch as a watchmaker. Look at the universe and how fine-tuned things are. It points towards a creator. Right? Solar systems, cover that. Even in microbiology, talking about cells, how complex it is. We look at a single cell and all its little organelles and mechanism in it. We talk about codes. If you wake up in the morning and you see this note on your kitchen table, right? You would think somebody has put the letters together in a way. It comes from a mind. It is not random, right? You look at the sky, look at the eyeball, how complex things are to make things work. All parts need to work together for it to function. We look at DNA as well, and how the coding of everything happens. Facts about DNA. Even one amoeba cell has like 1,000 sets of encyclopedia worth of information. So yeah, so we sort of covered the teleological argument, which is the cause and purpose of things, and how it points out that existence of God, where we see order and design. So today we're just going to talk about moral argument, argument of religious needs, and some of the objections. So what is the moral argument? So moral argument consists that existing of objective moral values necessitates a moral lawgiver. Without God, moral standards become subjective and arbitrary. So this is the premise. The premise one, it says every law has a lawgiver, just like every prescription has a prescriber. Every legislation has a legislator. Premise two says there is an absolute moral law, and therefore there must be an absolute moral lawgiver. So let's cover a few points. So number one, so we can't know what is unjust unless we know what is just. Okay. Similarly, you can't tell the line is crooked unless you know what a straight line is. Okay. Moral comparison demand objective moral standards. So if you put the two people in front of the screen here, Mother Teresa and Adolf Hitler, if you say Mother Teresa is better than Hitler, you're making a comparison, a moral comparison. But what is the standard of comparison? Without a objective moral law standard, it's you say or I say. Yes, you can't tell which is better. Number 4, true progress or regress demands absolute standard. We can't know the world is getting better or worse unless we know what is best. So again, you're gonna need a standard. Moral disputes calls for an objective standard outside dispute, right? So again, if you're comparing things, you gotta have a standard. Now, again, we talk about laws. Similarly, no one invented the law of math, right? Newton did not invent gravity. Just like moral laws, they were all discovered. And one of example of with discovery of moral law is, Adam and Eve, the garden, right? Universal moral guilt shows there's a universal moral law. When Adam and Eve broke the law, they felt the guilt. They hit themselves, right? Because they know they have done the wrong thing. But how do they know they have done the wrong thing if there's no moral law? In the New Testament, in Romans chapter 2, it says, indeed, when Gentiles, we do not have the law, but by nature, things required by the law, they are a law for themselves, even though they do not have the law. They show that the requirement of the law are written on their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts sometimes accusing them, and at other times even defending them. So even though you may not know exactly, and this is talking about the law of Moses, if you don't, like Gentiles, we don't know the law, but we know in our hearts what's nature. Our conscience tells us what's right and wrong. And this is C.S. Lewis, one of famous apologists in Mere Christianity, in his book. It's basically saying, when we make excuses for our fault, it shows that we know that it's wrong and we want to cover it up. It sort of indirectly implies that there's some sort of thing called right and wrong. We know that kids, when they do something wrong, they try to cover up, and we can tell they are trying to cover what they've done. And even in adults, we try to tell lies to cover up what we have done wrong. And we sometimes choose duty over instinct. So that's this like a fire, like our instincts tell us when you see a fire burning a house, we shouldn't rush in. But if you know your daughter or your son, someone loved ones is inside, sometimes it compels us to even rush in, even though it's a danger, to rescue, right? Firefighters, they're trained to get in there in the danger. So there's a sense of what's right to do. Even the instinct says otherwise. There are many things we don't want others to do. For example, lie, cheat, abuse, and kill. Right? The golden rule. Where did this concept come from? Right? When others cheat others or kill others, we may not care. But when it happens to us, we say, no, you can't do this to me. You can do it to others, but not to me. So there's a sense of what right and wrong. The same basic moral code are found in all major cultures. Again, this is talking about, if you look at, not just Christianity, but all sort of religion or culture, there's all pointing towards a sort of baseline moral codes that lying is wrong, stealing is wrong, and killing is wrong. So if we combine, all these arguments from previously to today, so God is infinitely powerful. That's the cosmological element, looking at the universe, creating of the universe, where everything is created in order. There's an intelligence behind it, a theological argument where the fine-tuning of everything points to a designer. And now today to look at the moral argument that there is the innate moral code. So the God or the unique one there can't be two infinite beings. There cannot be two perfect beings. There is only one mind behind the universe, as indicated by this. So the other thing that we're going to cover is arguments for religious need. So this argument is talking about search of meaning and connection of divine, and its longing suggests a deeper reality beyond mere existence. So what does this mean? So premise one says all person needs God. Theist admits it, atheist revealed it. What we really need really exists. So you think about if we need oxygen to breathe, to survive, it's normally there. You might not get it, but it exists, right? So if we really need God, then God really exists. So this is, again, a former atheist, but again, turned to believer. It says, a baby feels hunger. Well, there's such a thing as food. And a duckling wants to swim. Well, there's such a thing as water. So it's something we really need. It should exist. And this is a few sayings from different atheists that they may not sometimes admit they need God, but in deep down, they actually have that longing of the need for God. And sometimes it spills out into their writings. So this is one of famous atheists, John Paul Sartre. In one of his writings, I needed God. I reached out for religion. I longed for it. It was the remedy. Had it been denied me, I would have invented it myself. Another one, Sigmund Freud, he admitted that it would be very nice if there were a God. He admitted a sense of man's insignificance or impotence in the face of the universe. He refers to our God, Logos. Another atheist, Albert Camus. For anyone who is alone, without God and without a master, the weight of days is dreadful. So there are a few examples, an atheist named Durand says it is a shadow of a shadow. Nietzsche says it is not unbearable. Huxley says intolerable. Camus says dreadful. Sartre says cruel. Hume will say it leads to delirium. The main point says atheists says with their lips there is no God, but they show with their lives there is a God. We cannot get rid of God. Those who deny God with the top of their minds, nevertheless, cannot avoid Him at the bottom of their hearts. Right? So you can lead a horse to water, but whether or not you can get them to drink, it's a different story. So I like how Stephen brought out the pride during the Lord's Supper. There's a sense of pride in some people. And usually when you come to talking about people about God, innately they know they need the God. But there's some sort of stumbling block, believing in God, or even later on will lead down to which religion or Christianity, it compels someone to give up themselves and following God. And a lot of times people are not willing to put that down. They can't let go of their habits, their lifestyle. They may have sin in their life that they're not willing to give up for that. Okay, so this is a video, I believe. Yeah, let me just see if I can quickly play this.
Calibration by OEC, 200,000 visas issued in
February. Election time.
February, 130,000 homeless.
Open University used to be free in Australia. Trumpet Patriots will make it free again.
Unless you're raised in a Baptist.
Calibration by OEC, 200.
Sorry. This is
Very hard to free and try. From the Patriots who might be free again. Forgive existing it.
A question we get from a lot of first time investors is, what's the chance I'm going to lose money in the share market? And in fact, the stats are
I know it's not going to the
Isn't it play? Wasn't it?
place, but it doesn't.
Oh, you can't control it.
I won't bring up YouTube instead.
I don't know if the links work, but oh yeah, maybe
Capital creation
just have to do it.
I'm even mute.
by OEC, 200,000 visas issued in February, 130,000 homes.
Unless you're raised in a Baptist Sunday school, you probably think that if you believe in God, you should be able to explain why. Luckily, Christians and other philosophers have been answering this question for over 2,000 years. Evidentialism tries to argue for God by giving evidence of supernatural events. For example, a lot of Christians think the resurrection of Christ can be historically proven because there were a lot of eyewitnesses who all died for their faith, and generally people don't die for something they know isn't true. Sometimes people give evidence of supernatural things like demonic possessions, where people start speaking in languages they don't know, or near-death experiences where people see things outside their body that they shouldn't have been able to see. The moral argument is basically, objective morality is only real if God is real, but objective morality is real, so therefore God is real. Question, is cannibalism good or bad? I think it's good. I think it's bad. I think it's good. I think it's bad. Which one of them is correct? Now, I'm assuming you agree with this one. If you don't, please stay away from me. But how do you know that he's actually correct? How do you know that these aren't just different opinions?
200,000 visas were issued by the Labor government just in February. That's 200,000. Cut immigration by 80%. 200,000 visas issued in February. 130,000 homes.
Sorry. Apologies for that, but I think it makes the point. We sort of got to the moral part. So yeah, in Romans chapter 1, verse 18 to 20. For the wrath of God is revealed from the heaven against all ungodliness and righteousness of men, who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power of Godhead, that they may be without excuse. So again, coming back to that is, we know innately there are people who suppress the truth. They know what is right to do, but they can't give up something to admit that. So truth and consequence. If God exists, then miracles are possible. Truth is absolute. Morality is absolute. And the Bible is credible. Life has the ultimate purpose. Yeah. If God does not exist, then miracles are not possible. Truth is not absolute. Morals are not absolute, and the Bible is not credible. Life has no ultimate purpose. But we'll cover that in later lessons. So in conclusion, but God does exist, as the evidence shows, right? From the beginning of the universe, intelligence of designs of life, the moral law, and the need for God. Therefore, these things can happen. Like the miracles, truth, morality is absolute, Bible is credible, and life ultimately has meaning. Okay, so yeah, so in summary, the various arguments presented indicates there is only one God, who must be infinite, personal, intelligent, and moral. This God transcends the finite world and is capable of miracles, having created the universe. The evidence points to the existence of a theistic God, one that is infinite, intelligent, perfect, personal, and supernatural. Okay, so now we have established that the truth about reality is knowable. So we can know truth, right? we know the opposite cannot be both true. So if there are two different teachings, one is white, one is black, it can't be both true at the same time. And the theistic God exists. That is what we cover today. And the next lesson, we're going to talk about, are miracles possible? So one of the things in the Bible is, Jesus performed a lot of miracles. And is that possible to happen? If that's possible, then, they can use that to confirm messages, to prove that the message comes from God. All right. Thank you for your attention. I will pass it back to Earl.